to pick up where we were and basically turn it over to our main presenter, Bill Fligg. I'll share the screen.
Hi, Bill.
Presenter.
Good to see
Hello.
you.
There you go.
Good day. I'll just get this turned on here this time. Can you see that okay now?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Wow. Thanks for that. It's always a challenge when we're dealing with some kind of technology these days, but here we are. And thanks to our DNA team for putting this together, and welcome everybody for coming. My name is Bill Fligg. I'm the North America Sales Manager for Pacific Tech, and today we'll give you a brief overview of our AP automation, Pacific Tech expense reporting for employees, and our Pacific Tech Go app, and as well actually our PW Web app for web approvals. Just a quick brief on our company. We've been delivering solutions in the Sage 300 environment for over 20 years, focused on delivering Tier 1 capability and enhanced functionality to what is now 2,700 Sage 300 customers around the globe. We develop our solutions using Sage 300 Software Development Kit, otherwise known as the SDK. This is a very big differentiator. Many of the ISV solutions that are out there are independent third-party type solutions in that they integrate separately and outside of your Sage 300 ERP. When we deliver and develop our solution, it lands inside your ERP and has the same look and feel and functionality as everything else you have in Sage 300, and you're not moving from screen to screen, other than if you're working with the web approvals and such. We've developed a very comprehensive procure-to-pay suite, including AP automation, which you'll see today. We have very powerful and innovative modules, which you'll see today, which is our PW Web and our Pacific Tech Go mobile app. We have data centers around the world. We're in Canada, Australia, South Africa, New Zealand. Our servers are used to help provide the solutions with the connected services. We've won a number of awards over the years that we're quite proud of from Sage, and we continue to focus on being a global ISV. A quick overview of our products. We have Workflow Suite, which is your purchasing workflow, payables workflow, workflow and notifications. All of these give you controls over your end-to-end procure-to-pay requirements in your ERP. We have what we call Control Suite, which does include workflow notifications, where you have the ability to control vendor master file changes, such as vendor bank accounts. If you don't want them being changed, then you can put a workflow on that, so that it has to be approved by a senior person in the organization. This is a fraud related thing. We also have Audit Logger, some people call Big Brother, and you can set it up to monitor various areas of your ERP to track who's been making changes and who's been processing transactions. We have our Mobility Suite, which is our PW Web for web requisitions and approvals, as well as our Pacific Tech Go app. So just to give you a bit of an overview on how all of this works together, as a procure-to-pay solution, we have our procurement workflow, we have our supplier invoice and payables workflow, which you'll see today, both of which work with our workflow documents, and this you'll see today as well, so that you can see how we take the transactions and make the process paperless. We also have workflow notifications, and again, as I mentioned, it gives you control over vendor master file changes, but in as far as payables go, this workflow gives you also other controls relating to actually making payments to vendors. So you've approved the invoices, but the next step is to actually approve the payments. And instead of handing over a stack of documents and electronic transfer slip to sign or a check to sign, they receive the package electronically to review the approved invoices and then sign off basically with a click of a button to approve the payments. All of these integrate directly with our PW Web, which you see above here, and you have full access to this through a browser. Taking a look at the overall functionality for procure to pay, and in green here you have your Sage 300 from your vendor master files through to purchase requisitions, purchase orders, PO receipts, supplier invoice, supplier payment. We have workflows and controls across the entire process. With PO receipt, it's not a complete workflow, but we do block over receiving, all of which you can attach various documents to. to all of these in the process. So getting more specifically into AP automation, main features, the AP staff have more control. This is from feedback from a large number of our end users, and I'm sure this is something that you're looking for as well. Benefits to the cost center managers and finance team, and you'll see that in a moment. Controls are enforced by Sage 300 itself. Three-way matching is performed by the system, so you can take a look at what was approved if you're using POs or purchasing workflow and you've using receipting, and then an invoice comes in, then it can perform a three-way match to make sure that everything is as it should be as per what was approved and what was received. There's transparency on all the transactions. You can see who approved it, what any notes are, commentary, and of course, copy of the transaction, in this case, your invoice. This diagram gives you a visual overview of how everything works. On the right-hand side, we have your Sage 300. In the center, we have our workflows and our workflow process. And on the left, we have our connected services, which in this case today, AP automation uses our document processing service. You'll see me refer to DPS, and that's document processing service. And then we also have our PW Web, which is for, in this case, web approvals, and actually adding attachments for employee expense reports, as well as the Go Pacific Tech Go app. And basically what happens in this with payables workflow in general, if you're going to enter your AP invoice or PO invoice and it processes through the workflow, comes back in the ERP for the approver, could be a cost center manager to review. And once they've approved it, if the workflow, say you have a tolerance in place that says the approver is okay below $5,000. So say it's an invoice that's over $5,000. So this approver has approved it. Now it's going back through the workflow, and it could be it's going now to the controller so that they can review it. Once it's done, it's going to go back through the workflow, and once it's been finalized, if everything's been approved, it's going to create the AP invoice or the PO invoice. Now, from a connected, like a remote perspective, connected service perspective, before we get into just AP automation, if that workflow was going to be used by somebody that's more remote, that wouldn't be logging into the ERP, they could log in from a browser and or from the app and take a look at the invoice that's just come through the process and see the document, review the data and approve it, and it'll push that approval back through into the ERP. It'll work itself through the workflow and then back here. The AP automation piece, your AP person will take the invoice as a PDF, typically, say it's sent to you by your vendor electronically. We provide you an email address to our DPS service that's unique to your company, and you send it out by email through the DPS service, and it will come through our advanced machine learning OCR, third generation OCR, where it extracts the data and brings it back to the admin person at DPS console and AP to review the data. Usually comes back within 5 minutes, and they take a look at the data and make sure everything is fine. And at that point, they can submit it and push it through the workflow. And we're back to either a person is looking at it in the ERP because there's somebody that works in the ERP, or it's going to be looked at by somebody that's logging in from the web or the app to review. And that gives you a pretty good general idea how things fit together. Sort of like pieces of a puzzle. This is a screenshot of an actual workflow setup in our payables workflow. You can create an unlimited number of workflows. You give it a name that's meaningful and a description, and you have steps that you create in your workflow that it checks each process as it goes from step to step to step. Here we have it starting at step 10. We use groupings of 10 just because, like 10, 20, 30, and then here jump to 100, because later on you may want to fit something else into this workflow, and it's easy to do when you don't number them tightly together. And in this case, an invoice is going to go out. The AP person has sent it out. It's going to be checked by the cost center manager, in step 20. If it's below $5,000 and the cost center manager approves it, it's going to step 100, which is basically push it into AP and create an invoice. If it is 5,000 or higher, it's going to step 30, and this is at this point going to what we've set up to go to the controller for a second look. If it's approved now, it's going back to step 100. These are very easy to set up, and I can give you a quick look at that shortly. And you literally just add each step to the workflow. And in the workflow, I will point out that each person is notified by email that they have some responsibility to look at something that's been initiated in the workflow that involves them. Once it's been pushed in, once you're working in AP Invoice and you want to push this through the workflow, this is our AP Invoice entry. It looks very similar to what you're used to seeing now, except we've added a few other things like workflow events, workflow documents, a few other fields that you'll notice, but it's very familiar. And once that's been pushed through the workflow, the person, for example, in this case, a division manager, is responsible for looking at and approving that particular invoice. So here they are logging in, division manager. They get into Sage 300. This is our Payables workflow module. They literally go to approval console. It can be set to actually pop up with approvals required when they log in. From there, when they get into the console, they can see various invoices that require their attention, and they can click them open to review, and they can select no, yes. They have 60 characters to make notes, and from there, push it through the workflow. When you look at AP automation, and really that's mostly, in this case, we're talking about payables workflow without the OCR extraction. You do have the three-way matching with PO receipts, and you have the ability to configure tolerance values. So you can say, we'll accept 2% or $100 difference. Within tolerance, no approval needed. Outside of tolerance, it requires another approval. So you have the controls that way through the three-way matching. Now, when you take a look at the next step of, really this is the AP automation piece, document processing service, and sending out the invoices by email to our processor. So AP automation level 2, connected service, document processing, data extraction for your invoice, and web-based approvals. So that is really level 2 of our AP automation, because you can just get payables workflow with the workflow documents and all, and work inside of the ERP, and you can actually just use it with PW Web. But most people nowadays, with the number of vendor invoices that are coming in, this is the part that they really are after to simplify that data entry part. So we refer to it as third generation technology. OCR has come a long way. We have machine learning. So the automated extraction of AP invoice data from vendors' PDF invoice, it's machine learning training on vendor invoices. So it learns the invoice on 5, you send 5 vendor invoices through, you align where the various fields are. Actually, normally the first time through, the system has quite a bit of artificial intelligence, and we'll figure out most of it on its own. We will line up their tax code, like their HST, will help identify who the vendor is. You can have other vendor master file fields that can be used to identify who they are, but usually it's their tax number. It handles changes of field positions on the invoices quite easily. It recognizes the field in a different position. So if the vendor changes the orientation of their invoice, that doesn't cause a huge problem. It extracts the line data and applies vendor coding rules. So for example, if you've defaulted a GL code for a particular vendor so that anything bought through them typically defaults to a GL code, it will bring that in with the items from that vendor already defaulting to that code. You can change it to any code you want, but if it's something that's repetitive enough that it's worth doing, then we can utilize that. So this is what it looks like when you're actually taking a vendor invoice right here, and you're attaching it to an email where we have provided you an email address unique to your company, and you simply send it off through email to our DPS service. And when it goes through the processing service, and usually within 5 minutes. If you are logging back into your ERP and you take a look at Payables workflow in the DPS console, you'll see it sitting here waiting for review. When you open it up, you'll see an image of the invoice on the right-hand side and the data that was extracted over in this area here. And you have the ability, if it's made any kind of a mistake here, you can quickly click and adjust any of this information. If it was a PO and it's on the invoice, it will pick that up and automate this document type. If it's after the fact, I've had a lot of people say, well, they don't actually issue a PO till after the invoice comes in. They can literally toggle that to PO, and when you get to the next stage, you can enter the PO number, so it's not a problem. And here we are at the next stage. So you're pushing it through, and you're back to AP invoice entry where we were a few steps ago when I was showing you the basic payables workflow. So here we are pushing it back in now to the same place. And like I was mentioning, you may want to enter a PO number because now you've actually you've changed the status of that, and you're pushing it through the workflow. And in this case, we've got our division manager back here again, logging in, looking at the approval console, sees some invoices to review, and they do their thing. So as far as the PW Web is concerned, this is how this all looks. So this is your ERP on the right-hand side. This is our web server, and for North America, it's in Toronto. And this is your web approvers. This is your web requisitioners. So for purchasing workflow, you can have web requisitions, and that's quite convenient and very growing trend on that one. And for the AP automation, you've got your approvals and review. So what's happening here is when your user puts their username and password in the company they want to log into, it reaches through the server, our server, to yours through a gateway that your IT people have set up with our dedicated IP addresses, very secure. And it says, who is this person? And it presents back the views that they're allowed to see. Nothing is stored or cached permanently in our server. We align only some data table structure information so we know how to path things back and forth, but no actual data is stored here. Everything is in your ERP. So from there, if you look at PW Web, it covers all three of our Pacific Tech workflow modules: payables workflow, purchasing workflow, workflow notifications. Our Pacific Tech Go mobile app is also available, and it handles quite a lot of the payables workflow, purchasing workflow, workflow notifications. The only thing it's not doing quite yet is the requisition side, and we're working on that, and it's available in Android and iOS. So this screen here is what our PW Web looks like, other than if you were to use it, we would brand it up nice with your corporate colors and branding and logo. So when your people, your team go to log in, they identify with your corporation or your entity or organization. Simply put in their username, password, and the company that they're logging into, and no different than the ERP. If they're authorized to log into multiple entities, they can do that from here. Once they've logged in, they'll see, in this case, AP invoices pending, if there are any, and they've maybe been notified, so that's why they're here. And they can simply click to have a look. And once they have a look, they can see the items, they can see the GL accounts and the descriptions. You can actually allow them to edit these if they're people that do know the GL architecture, and or you can turn that off. So it's your call how you want to set that up. And they can look at other tabs, taxes, optional fields, events, to see what status it is in the workflow. This could be the controller logging in here and looking at events, sees that it was initiated by one person in AP, was already approved by the cost center manager, and now it's come to them. And then they can click here to see the workflow document. So when they click that to see the workflow document, they'll see it sitting right here, in this case, PDF. Literally just click that and it opens up the PDF so that they can view it. No different, actually I'll go back to that. They can view it no different than you would any PDF on your computer. So from there, they've seen everything they need to see. They come back here to the pending drop-down box and they can change it to approve or decline. They have the ability to make up to 60 character, like a comment up to 60 characters relating to this. And from there, they can select Postmark documents. And in this case, not as quoted, and I declined it. So this stays in ERP, so they can always go back to it, and this comment will remain there, and it will relate to the username that that marked it that way. So with the app, our Pacific Tech Go app, very similar functionality, just it's designed to work on a mobile phone. And I will actually show you a live view of that, but it utilizes the space of the phone very effectively and gives you complete visibility on the invoices. And for employees, actually, if you're using employee expense reporting, they can actually, in this case, they're receiving a notice of some invoices or expenses on their credit card that they can now view and attach the actual receipt. So when we look at the Pacific Tech Go app, key features, approved purchase, requisitions and invoices, access to attachments, quotes, invoices. It sorts with the most recent approval requests at the top. You can add comments, same as everywhere else, up to 60 characters. All approvals are logged, giving complete visibility, whether approved or declined. And that's all back in the ERP. It'll all go back and be a transaction in the ERP exactly the same as if they did it right from being in the ERP, but they didn't have to. And it's real time, it's live. As soon as something's pushed through the workflow, it's there within about a second. When you look at Pacific Tech Expense, this is employee expense reporting, and many companies have credit cards. So expense management is normally handled one of two ways, usually a company credit card or purchase card, or an employee submitting an expense or claim report. So Pacific Tech Expense flows on as part of our AP automation to streamline and consolidate expense processing. It allows you to capture employee spend from multiple sources, attach supporting receipts and invoices, and integrate with standard expense workflows, simplifying the process for everyone. And the four straightforward touch points on that is AP downloads the credit card data from the bank. So you literally log into the bank, you download your credit card data from the bank or your service provider, and add additional information. So we basically give you a template of how that should look. When you've dumped down your Excel, you massage it slightly, and from there you import it into the Payables workflow, and it creates credit card expense report as a transaction. And it then turns around and sends that out to the appropriate people that relate to those expenses for them to, and they can review with the web or the mobile. They can attach the receipts, amend the descriptions, and then it's routed to the designated workflow approver for review and approval. So it could be their manager now has to see it and approve and sign off, and then after that it goes through for reimbursement. And like we have here, once approved, the credit card expense report is then available to AP Finance to check or amend GL codings, tax settings, and such before posting and routing the payments through the workflow. So AP automation benefits, summary, a few testimonials, differentiators are big ones to get to in a minute here. So again, just AP automation level 1. So this is literally just Payables workflow. So as I said, the AP staff are in more control, no filing, less time chasing up invoices. Cost center managers and finance team, it's more efficient, easy access to invoices, improved accrual process, reduced time for monthly financial close. Controls such as delegated authorities are enforced by the system. Three-way matching performed by the system, transparency, so everybody can see where everything's at. You can have a vendor call and say, what's going on with my invoice, and an AP person can look at it and see who it sits with. As a matter of fact, we can also send out reminders for outstanding. You can put a date required default on this workflow, so that anybody that hasn't responded to an invoice for approval then can start getting reminders that they are behind the required date to respond to that. So, and it's also very environmentally friendly. This is the whole, go paperless or get rid of the filing cabinet. And also, if you're getting audited, you can have your auditor easily go in with read-only view and find what they need. All the attachments, all the documents, invoices are all there, part of your posted transactions. So all your backup is there. The level 2 part is your DPS and your PW web. So the benefits there: reduced time entering invoices, more accurate data entry, AP staff job satisfaction skill level elevated from data entry to review. I've seen some organizations that literally the time it takes to enter their invoices, just the data, could be $30,000, $40,000 a year just in data entry when you look at the number of invoices that they're entering. And now this person can be reassigned to something while they're reviewing the data, and they can take that work further along. Their job description will actually become more enhanced. They'll be more useful in the organization than just simply entering data. So PWF and Pacific Tech Go app, ease of use, quicker processing, saves on Sage 300 LanPaks. That's a big one. So you can have up to 50 users on one Sage 300 LanPak with our PW Web and Pacific Tech Go app. So not only does it keep people out of the ERP that you may not want in there, they just don't belong in there. But it also saves a tremendous amount on LanPaks, because if you had all those people going in and out of your ERP, your concurrent sessions you just have to buy a lot more LanPaks than what's needed. Transition to mobile web for fast access from portable devices. So really just everything gets done a lot quicker when people can get at it all a lot faster. If you look at the differentiators, the data is all inside of Sage 300, so there's no issues with syncing of data between two separate systems. Configuration all inside Sage 300. It's easy for our business partners to learn and work with, plug and play. It's also easy for our end users, or the business partners' end users. Uses AP vendor app vend settings, for example, default GL codes, and that's where I was saying if a vendor typically supplies products that relate to a particular GL code, you can have it utilize that, and it'll always set that up for you. Data extraction is third generation technology. It's a lot lower cost nowadays in this particular process than what other systems cost, and what they used to cost years ago to get into something like this. And it's we have a complete end-to-end procure to pay process. So even if you just start with payables workflow and AP automation, you can actually add to it over time and expand it out to the full procure to pay solution that we offer. A little bit of these are just comments made: more control, more efficient, easy access to invoices, reduces time for all staff, less errors. A particular comment here: the new Pacific Tech solution has definitely freed up time in the finance team and allowed team members to focus on other tasks. Also, encouragingly, all managers in the business have given the system a big thumbs up. So that was from Brendan IT. Quickly captures receipts, categorizes expense, processes claim reports, review and track all of your company expense data in Pacific Tech Payables workflow, streamline employee expense processing and payment to reimburse employees faster. COVID-19 brought with it the necessity of remote working, and our company had to go paperless with our invoice approval process almost overnight. The Pacific Tech workflow tool achieved that quickly, securely, and saved man hours. We've recently expanded this to include employee expense management and are now completely paperless within our AP function, and are exceptionally happy with the results. So is Cabin Services Australia. In regards to our Pacific Tech Go app, quickly capture receipts, categorize expense, process claim reports, review and track all company expense data in Pacific Tech Payables workflow, streamline employee expense processing and payment to reimburse employees faster. The app's been positively received by everyone that uses it. I've never seen invoices get approved so fast since the app was put in. This means our suppliers are paid more quickly, which is great for them also. And this is the Tradies Dixon. So just looking at time here, I'm not going to, these are just some of our modules that we do have. I want to jump to a couple live screens. This is a list of some of the logos of customers that we have around North America. But what I will do is I'm just going to jump into the ERP here, and hopefully you can see that okay.
Yeah, I see you, Bill.
Perfect.
Just to let you know, Bill, we'll save a couple minutes for some questions.
Yes, perfect. I'll wrap it up in a couple minutes. So here's your Sage 300. These are areas, these are modules that you're familiar with. We simply add in as a couple extra modules. Here's the DPS console. So after the invoice has been sent out, as I showed you in a screenshot, I sent this one out yesterday. It picked up the line data, and literally, they just, well, we won't fool around with that. I know that the servers, the guys have been playing around with my demo system. So you push that through the workflow, and what you end up with is, and I'll go back to this screen here. This is PW Web, and simply logging in, and this is just a live view of what I showed you in the PowerPoint. And it's reaching back saying, who is this person? What are their rights? What are they allowed to see? And that one invoice, here's one that I pushed through yesterday, and it allows me to click onto it and have a quick look. Now I'm doing this with a server on Australia, and you would be in Toronto. So I'm actually having to go the other side of the world here. That's a particular demo system I'm working on. But here's your here's the tabs in this transaction. And again, there's your invoice that the user is simply sitting at their computer like I am right now, and they can see everything. And if they're happy, literally all they have to do is just say approve or decline. And if they, so this particular one you'll see was 12/14/2103. And if I go to the app and log in, and this is a sampling of the app, but actually from a browser here. And it's doing the same thing. It's reaching back saying, who is this person? And you'll see they actually have also on the purchasing side requisitions, but they have 4 AP invoices, and that's actually what you have here. And on the app, when you select that, they see a breakdown. If there's attachments, they can click it and have a look at all the data. If they want to open up the PDF, they simply open that up as you would on any phone, and see your PDF. They can select OK or decline, put your 60 characters there, and that is that. There was one invoice. Was just going to not invoice. There was an email. Okay, I won't go to it. I was just going to show you that it basically sends an invoice or an email out to the approver that they can simply click on, and it brings them right to their login screen for this. From there, I want to thank you for your time and maybe take some questions if we have any, and open up the floor.
Thank you, Bill. Yes, we do have a couple of questions. Some of them may have been answered, but let's just make sure here. When you're talking about employees submitting receipts using their phone, can they upload their files by taking a picture?
Yeah, so we're adding the direct to transaction application. I don't think it's completed yet, but that's definitely in the works. Currently, they would take a picture and they would use the file attach feature right now. And
Okay.
so it's two steps instead of one. But
Okay.
yeah, that is actually very doable.
Using the automated invoice entry, can I use that against multiple companies within Sage, or am I limited to just one?
Right. So yeah, there's no limit to that. The number of entities, we have many end users that have many companies, as we refer to as entities, on their installation of Sage 300, and we just assign a different email address for each of the entities, and so that way it will flow. The invoices can flow through to the proper company.
Okay. There are a couple more. The document files that we're using are that are attached to the invoice, where are they stored?
So they're all stored in the same location as your ERP. So where all your Sage 300 data is, the documents are also there as well. So they're not somewhere else that they're trying to sync back and forth. Everything is all part of your Sage 300 database.
Okay. Question about, you talked about LanPaks. Can you explain how many Sage licenses do I need to get for the AP automation solution?
Okay, so on the DPS side, it doesn't require anything additional. That's somebody that's already in your ERP doing invoice data entry that's now just emailing it out to TPS. But on the PW Web, so for web approvals and Pacific Tech Go app approvals, you can have, so you need one LanPak for PW Web, but that one LanPak can have up to 50 users. Now, actually, we just say 50. We've had people with 200 users, and I think they've been okay with 3 LanPaks. But as a rule of thumb, we say 50 users for 1 LanPak, which is a huge saving.
Okay, super. And I'll add one of my own. Can you explain a little bit the pricing structure? Is it by modules? Is it by number of users, by transactions?
Right. So we have it set up as a suite, and the suite takes you right from the simple AP automation process, where everything is counted by the number of invoices from vendors that you process per month. So the subscription, no matter what stage of our suite that you're looking at, if you're simple payables workflow documents with the DPS and PW Web, then we have just if you're 100 invoices a month, it's X amount of dollars. And if you're 500 invoices per month, you're X amount of dollars. From there, so that's discovery. Then you can go to Pro, where we include workflow notifications. That one is the one that gives you the ability to also approve the payment to the vendors instead of signing off on checks, and gives you control over master file changes, such as vendor bank accounts. But and so again, it's all if you're going for the whole suite, then it's a subscription that's monthly based, and everything is priced based on the number of invoices you're processing per month. And you can actually take that whole suite right through to the whole procure to pay. And we have what we call enterprise, which is actually not only the payables workflow documents, workflow notifications, but it includes purchasing workflow as well. So you can start doing the web requisitions, control the whole purchasing side of things, and then enterprise plus includes funds availability in the purchasing, which is the ability to control cost center budget, so people can see what their cost center budget is before they're requisitioning or approving. So we really do have a full suite. You can buy the modules separately. If you're just going payables workflow and workflow documents, and you don't want PW Web, you don't want the DPS like AP automation, you can just get a subscription or a perpetual license. But if you're going to do the whole package, then it's set up as a monthly subscription. So hopefully that answered your question.
Awesome. If you have any other questions, feel free to submit them. We didn't get time to answer them now. We'll of course follow up via email. And I'd like to thank you for your time, Bill, for your excellent presentation, to the point, and given the circumstances, it was perfect. Much appreciated. If you have any of you attending today have any follow-up questions, best way is to call DNA or send an email to sales@da.ca, sales@da.ca. And Will Booth or myself will be happy to return the call and get you the information you need. I'm letting you know that our next session is going to be in January. It is going to be on budgeting and planning with company True Sky, and we're expecting to have a customer success story during that time. So again, thank you for attending. The webinar has been recorded. We'll be sending you shortly a link to the recording, and if you have any questions or any follow-ups, we'd be happy to do that. Thank you. Best of wishes for the holiday season to everyone, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.